Hi, I'm Mal from the Money Study, bringing you another episode in the Ultimate PSS Education Series, and this one's number 49 on your preservation components. A little bit different to these components in the PSS compared to other super funds, so it's a good idea to understand what they mean and how they work. Before we kick off, there's our disclaimer. It's all about facts and figures. It's information. It is not advice in today's session. On your statement on page 6, at the top of the page, you'll see these three benefit components. You've got a preserved, a restricted non-preserved, and an unrestricted non-preserved. I always love the terminology in superannuation. Anyway, we've got these three components, and they are pretty typical in the regard that you'll find these components, generally speaking, on your other super fund if you own one. These are standard sort of components, and each one of these components has a different meaning on when you can access it. It's all about preservation in superannuation. Generally speaking, your money is tied up. So let's have a look at these three components and what they really mean inside the PSS. Preserved component, that's the basis, the basic one, which means that any money you've put into super effectively is now preserved, and it's preserved until something happens. You've hit a trigger event, a condition of release. Something is allowing you to take the money out of super. And these are all the conditions that we talked about when we had episodes there on either resigning or on your retirement. So we're basically looking at reaching your preservation age and leaving the workforce permanently, changing employers after reaching the age of 60, obviously passing away, not a nice way to get your money, becoming totally and permanently incapacitated, also not a nice way to get it, nor is the last one, qualifying for a release under severe financial hardship or specified grounds. They're all conditions of release. And so up to that point, pretty typical. That's how we normally look at the bulk of your super. Now, if you do have numbers in the other two components, then we've got some further options. If you've got a value in your restricted non-preserved, so it's basically, that's exactly what it means. It's not actually preserved, but there is a restriction on it. And so this benefit can be paid when you stop working in eligible employment, and subject to the PSS rules. And of course, in the PSS, what this really means is how much have you got in your SIS upper limit. If you haven't listened to the episode on SIS upper limit, I suggest you do that first and then come back to this one. Basically, the idea is there is an amount of money that you can indeed access, should you actually leave, even under your preservation age and so forth. So it's all just everything. All of these accessing comes down to what are you doing going forward? How old are you, and how much money have you actually got as a SIS upper limit? Now, in other super funds, if you've got a restricted non-preserved, generally speaking, what it means is if you leave that employer where that money was put in from, then when you leave that employer, that restricted non-preserved amount can indeed be withdrawn. The last one is the most open one, where it's unrestricted and it's non-preserved. In other super funds, yep, that's exactly what it means. It means if you've got a few $1,000s or whatever sitting in a super fund and it says it's unrestricted and non-preserved, you could grab that money at 38, whatever age you may be, if you've got some. It's not a very common amount to have. But if you do have an unrestricted non-preserved in other super funds, yep, that's yours to take out. But of course, be careful of tax if you're taking money out of a super fund under your preservation age. Now, of course, in the PSS, they call it unrestricted non-preserved because it says this benefit can be paid to you at any time. But then they put a qualifier on it, subject to PSS rules. And in the PSS, no benefits are payable until you stop working in eligible employment. And so this means your unrestricted non-preserved benefit will always be nothing while you're a contributing member. So there are no unrestricted non-preserved benefits in the PSS because their PSS rules just don't allow it. But in other super funds, you'll see these three components. This might help you just to understand what that is in other super funds. So if you need a few $1,000s and you've got some unrestricted non-preserved, it's available in your other super fund if you've got it. For most of you, you're going to find it's 0, and the only dollar value you'll have it will be under your preserved component, which means you cannot touch it until you hit a condition of release. before you ever take money out of a super fund, always ensure you know what you're doing as far as tax, any other implications that may mean if you're withdrawing money, especially from the PSS. What will it mean to future options? Come and have a chat. We're here to help. Talk to you on another episode.